Wow. That's kind of weird. That's a lot of connections. Why would all the Navy SEALs who were on the OBL raid all now still be connected in a bunch of things they're in charge of with a PR and brand manager, an agency that's owned by the same guy who ran Barack Obama's presidential campaign? That's really, really interesting. Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and we have an actual crazy video for you today. Now, I honestly never thought I would share this information that I've had for a while in public, let alone on my YouTube channel. I've learned a lot of things following and really digging deep and talking to people deeply involved with things like the John Chapman controversy and Tucker Gar and all these different things. But seeing as now everybody's talking about this type of stuff, John Shrek McPhee's on Megyn Kelly's podcast, we're going to go through that interview, and Tucker Carlson, everybody's talking about this type of stuff now. So I figure, fine, I'll throw it out there. I'll add it to the conversation. So we're going to go through John's interview over on the Megyn Kelly show. Super interesting. He actually put forward some theories that a lot of us in the special operations community sort of already knew. But he finally said it out loud. Somebody's saying this stuff out loud. And the theory is essentially that OBL, YouTube, was kept alive for a long time by the powers that be and was used essentially as a PR and marketing tool right before the 2012 election. The information I'm going to give you connects a lot of spider webs of things John's talking about, and I'm going to basically prove to you why that theory is true in this video. So if you're interested in that, stick with me. I promise it's going to be worth it. You guys are going to like this video, all right? So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Definitely helps the channel. Follow us on Patreon. Grab some Munchkin merch. All the merch is restocked. We got tank tops coming back soon. Let's jump into it. First thing we're going to do is actually see what John said over on the Megyn Kelly show and go through it because, man, it is wild, the things that we are talking about in public now. Let's check it out.
So what happened? Because you didn't find bin Laden there, but you found all of his henchmen.
Yeah.
You killed him.
Yeah.
And then are you like done? Because bin Laden's still out there.
A fucking ceasefire. A fucking ceasefire. Someone called a ceasefire. And I would also say there's a couple helicopters flew over the battlefield, which I still to this day don't know who they were.
Oh, you think?
Okay, for reference, what he's talking about is Tor Bora, where we went in and we actually did capture or smoke a bunch of OBL's commanders, and he wasn't there suspiciously. Okay, so this is what John's explaining.
He was escaping?
I look at it this way. If the first 10 days of the war, 10 guys kill bin Laden, where's the war on terror at?
Oh, this is interesting.
The checkbook would have never got opened.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Guys, that is a wild comment. And if you really think about it, think about that logically. 2001, we send in, a group of heavy hitters, Delta dudes, and they actually catch OBL. There's no global war on terror. It's over. Think about all the trillions of dollars that didn't get to be printed for the MIC because of that. That's a wild theory, and it's not that wild. That actually makes a lot of sense. Now, is that to say that OBL was killed or captured in the beginning of the war? I don't think so, but that's not really the point, right? But that's just kind of one of those interesting things to hear somebody say. Let's keep moving.
That's what I think.
So you're pretty cynical about our military-industrial complex.
I wouldn't say cynical. I enjoyed my time. I love grenades, you know what I mean? But I do think, the rug was pulled out from under us.
Well, it definitely was at the end, but are you talking about right here, right now, when you're trying to find bin Laden? You don't think that the military brass wanted you to find him? They wanted it to go on and on?
No.
Yeah, this is not that crazy. It makes total sense. I don't think it's cynical at all. Right, next section we're going to jump into is him talking about, again, when this raid actually happened and the sketchiness sort of around it. And then this is where I'm going to interlace some really interesting information that overlays with this. All right, let's check it out.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think I think George Bush said dead or alive, and I think the Pentagon was risk adverse. And I think that's where the disconnect was at that time. But I think someone else stepped in and took bin Laden into hiding.
Who might that be,
And when
guys?
we found him in 10? Trying to remember my exact time. It was 20, I think 11. I was on maternity leave with my
It was
daughter.
an election year.
Mm-hmm.
So you think that was by design?
Yeah. Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
He was
For
more
Obama.
useful. He was more useful dead.
Obama needed to get reelected. It's time.
And so allowed him to be killed.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the theory. He was kept alive, used in, it's an interesting and convenient time. And I'm going to show this to you guys. Used for a massive PR stunt for an election year. And he did it through the Navy SEALs. There's a lot of spiderweb connection between the Navy SEALs and Obama. And we're going to get into that right now. Let's look at these timelines real quick, guys. All right, but before we go any further into the video, got to give a shout out to our partners over at Tasty Gains. Now, we've been talking about their pre-workout lately, but they also have their creatine gummies. Guys, creatine, I love creatine. Probably my favorite supplement. The thing I don't love about creatine, drinking it tastes terrible. It's gritty. These taste amazing. They're just like candy, organic, pretty much just creatine monohydrate and an actual great flavored gummy. And you know who else likes them? Our boy John from the video.
You gotta take your creatine gummies. Joe Rogan calls it a neurotropic. It's how good it is for your brain. And people take it for lifting weights.
So guys, if you want to help your brain, your fitness level, get yourself on creatine. No better way. Head on over, check it out. Creatine gummies. You'll thank me later. And I learned some things when they reached out to me. Again, it's completely run by Navy SEALs. The board's run by Navy SEALs. All of the same commanders, Britt Slabinski and Tim Szymanski, J-Dub, all these guys that are involved in all these things we're going to talk about, also involved with the Navy SEAL Museum. But who's also involved? Who runs the PR for the Navy SEAL Museum? Let's take a look at this email that they sent me. You guys might remember this. All right, guys, this is the actual email they sent me when they were trying to justify their reasons for not having John Chapman as part of the exhibits. And who sent it to me? Well, it's from the CEO, but it was obviously written up by their PR agency, 7-Letter. Now, who is 7-Letter owned by? Well, let's take a look. 7-Letter is owned by this gentleman, founding partner and CEO, Eric Smith. Now, why is this relevant? So this is the guy who runs the PR for essentially the Navy SEAL Medal of Honor Museum. What did he also do? Well, this is their website. Let's go down to his bio. So look at this. In 2008 and 2012, Eric was a senior advisor for advertising and message development to the Obama-Biden presidential campaigns, where he designed, developed, and placed television, radio, and print advertising as part of a team that, according to the New York Times, unleashed an advertising campaign of a scale and complexity unrivaled in the television era. That was a pretty good advertising campaign for the election, wasn't it? Eric produced high-profile political media events, including the 2008, 2012, 2016 Democratic National Conventions and the historic Obama-Biden 30-minute network television broadcast seen by more than 35 million people. Now, let's connect some of those dots. So, the same guy who ran Barack Obama's presidential campaign, the PR marketing for it, during this time frame, during this election year, is also the PR and brand manager for all the Navy SEALs at the National Medal of Honor Museum, who are also the same Navy SEALs who were in charge of that raid. Wow, that's kind of weird. That's a lot of connections. Why would all the Navy SEALs who were on the OBL raid all now still be connected in a bunch of things they're in charge of with a PR and brand manager, an agency that's owned by the same guy who ran Barack Obama's presidential campaign? That's really, really interesting. There's a lot of other interesting things. You've heard about Extortion 17, and there's a lot of controversy in that. Essentially, well, basically the same guys who did the OBL raid, a lot of them were, unfortunately lost their lives in Extortion 17. Let's look at the timeline of that, okay? So remember, we looked at the OBL raid, May 2nd, 2011, Extortion 17. August 6th, 2011, unfortunately just a few months later, where all of the people who potentially could have come out and, given up information about all the things I'm talking about right now, they're no longer with us. That is wildly coincidental, don't you think, that all of these things are all tied together like this? And it's also interesting because all of these same Navy SEALs who are connected through Obama are also the same ones who were in charge of Takur Ghar and Red Wings, Operation Red Wings, Extortion 17, pretty much all of them. It gets pretty deep when you talk about the level of potential corruption and things like that. So my point with this is to make that when John comes out and says that his theory is that OBL was kept alive for years and then used by the Obama administration as a PR tool for his capture, yeah, duh, no shit when we start putting all these pieces together. It's all the same little core group of people involved in all of it. But again, I showed you the same guy who ran his campaign, also still the PR manager for all these same Navy SEALs. Duh. Now, what are my actual thoughts on this? All right. So, I mean, John brought up great points of like, okay, you had a guy who we know was on dialysis for his kidneys. And you know that he wasn't miraculously escaping and running through the desert all the way from, southern Afghanistan into Pakistan, where he was basically held and sheltered for. That doesn't really, that story doesn't really make any sense, right? Let's talk about the controversies one way or other, of whether a lot of people think that either he's alive, that he was killed at the start of the war. What is it? Okay, I'll say I've seen the picture of him afterwards. A lot of people have, and unless he has an amazing twin and doppelganger, I can tell you, he was on that OBL raid. They did actually eliminate him. So no, I don't think that he was randomly captured at the start of the war and then basically we were lied to for the military industrial complex to continue. I think what John has put forward is the most logical thing, that the powers that be had already found him and were keeping him alive because we know he worked for the CIA. That's not new information, right? OBL did. And then was used later and disposed of for a pre-election marketing campaign. I mean, I don't think this is that complicated of a thing when you look at all these people involved, right? Now, this whole thing poses a lot of problems for a lot of people, obviously. I mean, the idea that John talked, and he talked about that later in the interview, the idea that our government would keep OBL alive for years just to use as a PR and marketing tool, right, and continue the global war on terror where, we continued and lost thousands more American soldiers, all for that? Would they do that? Would your government lie to you? Yeah, I think they would. I think that's exactly what happened. And again, these are things that have been whispered from behind the scenes in our community for a long, long time. Nothing I'm saying is going to shock really anybody that's sort of in the know with this. But the fact that it's now come out and you guys can see, it's been a rough year in 2025 when you've seen a lot of these things getting exposed. And the corruption goes deep. You guys know that you followed all of the things they did to John Chapman and his family, right? Naval Special Warfare, all those things they were doing to them. So you think this is something that they wouldn't do? Of course they would have done it, right? And I think we're going to continue to get more and more and more information as things come out. And what we're going to find is, when we talk about a lot of different things right now, there's a lot of talk about 9/11 right now, a lot of talk about OBL, that a lot of people are starting to come forward, and we are learning that it turns out our government probably lied to us about everything, just across the board, for the global war on terror. And it's a sad thing to find out, especially for those of us who served and went and fought. But reality is reality. I don't think that anybody really is playing the play pretend patriotism game anymore when it comes to this. I think everybody knows, one way or another, whatever the true story is, it wasn't the one that was given to us. And so I think it's cool. I think John did a great job talking about these things here. And yeah, guys, there's going to be a lot of people who aren't happy about putting all those dots together, but I felt like I might as well add to the conversation. And people are going to see this and go, wow, didn't know all those people were so deeply connected. A lot of coincidences, a lot of convenient timings on things, right? So you guys can believe what you want, but that's all I got for this one. If we get more information on this, I will put it out in a video. That's going to do it for now. I will catch y'all in the next one.